Hello, and welcome to this webinar about the Biomedical Design Novo Nordisk Foundation Fellowship Program. The agenda is that our Managing Director, Sys Softman-Glud, is going to tell us about the program and the structure of it. And afterwards, we have two current fellows who are going to answer questions from the public about how it is to be a fellow and how you can be one. Okay, thank you.
Hello, and very warm welcome to all of you. With this webinar, I hope to motivate many of you to apply for one of our 16 fellowship positions, either this year or in the next coming years. As Katrine just said, I will walk you through the structure of the program, some of the expected outcomes, and the qualification criteria to apply. But first of all, who are in need of health innovation leaders? Well, the short answer is society and industry. Hospitals, they are and always have been depending on health innovation in order to improve patient treatment. And now, more than ever, they are depending on innovation due to the problems of changing demographics, sharp increases in chronically ill patients, and general cost constraints throughout hospital sectors in Europe and US. Also, or likewise, the patients, well, they depend on innovation, on good innovation, to improve their quality of life and to have some good living while being sick. Last but not least, Denmark as a country, we need to grow more health tech startups in order to maintain our industrial position in the market. The fellowship program have 4 overarching learning themes, but I'll say that throughout the program you will achieve a multitude of subject matter learnings and a lot of personal development too. You will learn a needs-led approach to innovation. That is because we believe that innovators, they should be better at understanding the problem that they try to solve before they build their ideas. You will train your creativity skills, not just ideation or idea generation, but also abilities to critically assess ideas and pick the right ones. And you'll train facilitator skills to really push the mental barriers of thinking in your group to come up with ideas. Then a third major theme is business understanding. Any type of health tech solution needs to be commercially viable in order to reach the end user. So therefore, it's really important that you understand how the dynamics are of the healthcare systems and the medtech industry, and how the strict regulation that governs the medtech industry is impacting the business side of matters. Then throughout the program, you will also learn a lot about different health systems and the stakeholders that are within these different systems. And you will build touch points to these and begin to understand their incentives. Something which is really critical when you want to get it through with some innovation. The fellowship program is structured around 4 different phases. The first month, the boot camp, is where you build the foundational knowledge in order to be able to access the clinical field that we have selected for you. Then in the clinical immersion phase, you will spend most of the days in a hospital, in specific departments, and you will shadow the staff and talk with patients and really follow the everyday life in the clinical setting and identify a lot of needs for better solutions. Then we have the creative skills phase, where you will ideate solutions to some of the needs that you have identified. And lastly, the commercial skills phase, where you will build a business model around one selected concept and also start prototyping the concept. In Denmark, we have a quite comprehensive innovation ecosystem, aiming at helping great ideas become fruitful. This fellowship program is at the very upstream end of that ecosystem, and all our stakeholders, they look at us as a potential pipeline for new projects to their programs. So therefore we collaborate with the ecosystem, and you will build touch points with them throughout the program. Here you see our 16 beautiful fellows that we have in our first cohort, and they started in September. When they finish in the end of June, we expect that they have achieved these outcomes at least, that they have a well-described project plan to realize a great idea and a business model that they have built around that idea. We expect that out of the 4 teams that we have each year, that between 1 and 4 of those projects will continue afterwards. All fellows, they will leave the program with a detailed understanding of healthcare innovation, but most importantly, they will have hands-on abilities to lead innovation projects afterwards. Fellows, they will, hopefully all of them also have achieved their individual learning goals. The fellows who enter the program, they have different things that they want to learn and improve on. And we work with that in the first month and formulate a personal learning mission. Then I can guarantee that everyone will have had their comfort zones move considerably. And everyone will also either have established or strengthened their entrepreneurial mindset during the program. When the first month into the program is finished, then the biomedical design staff sets the team, and we try to compose the team so that they can be as good performing as possible, but also leaving space for the individual participant to develop throughout the program. During the clinical immersion phase, each fellowship team will identify hundreds of needs, and the program will guide the team to filter and select out and narrow down all those many needs to 4 potentially very impactful clinical needs. But a lot of the needs that are identified, they have a more local character. As a fellow, you will present these needs to the department where the needs have been identified, and the staff there, they will have a democratic process voting on which needs they feel are the most important for them to have solved or to get solved. And then the Open Innovation Officer in my staff team, she will develop projects, innovation projects to the clinical department. That's sort of our way to give a payback to the host hospital with an immediate impact. During the creative skills phase, each team have 4 needs that they ideate solutions for, but gradually ideas and needs fall away so that the creative skills phase is finished with 2 lead concepts that goes into the commercial skills phase. And quite quickly thereafter, these 2 concepts are reduced to 1 concept, around which the team develops a business model and all that, what that includes, while at the same time also trying to prototype the solution. And what then? Then we reach June, the end of June, and what then? We expect that our fellows will sort of distribute in all sorts of directions, but now with a more focused health innovation direction in their careers. We expect that some want to continue the projects afterwards and maybe form a startup based on that. We expect that some returned back to their positions that they had prior to the program. And we expect that some will have achieved the courage and the skills to apply for their dream job in industry or in the innovation ecosystem. Of practical matters, I have to emphasize that the program is based on two main sites, one in Aarhus and one in Copenhagen. This is where most of the teaching and the group work is taking place. But the clinical immersion and all the research activities that are going on throughout the program goes on around whole Denmark and also abroad. So you have to expect to travel a lot, between 1 and 2 days every second week. The program can cover a lot of these travel costs, especially the study tours abroad. But you have to be ready to travel. As you can read from our homepage, the application window is open now and until 1st of February. We have 16 fellowships, and we select people based on their previous work experience and their academic degree. We want or preferentially select people that have as a minimum 3 to 5 years of professional work experience. Doesn't have to be in one consecutive row. You can have been out working for 2 years, gone back to school, and then worked a little again. That combination works fine. The start date for the next fellowship cohort is 1st September 2020, and that's a fixed date. We're not flexible around any alternative start dates. The first month is very important, so we want everyone to be ready and start there. We look for candidates from all sorts of disciplines because we want to create interdisciplinary teams. We want diversity in teams because that drives innovative ideas. The backgrounds that you see here are just some of the main subject matters that we are looking for, but others can also apply. In the public, there is a general misconception that people who engage into innovation and entrepreneurial activities are more of the extrovert personality. I want to emphasize that here in this program, we are very attentive to select for both introverts and extroverts, because both qualities are very important in innovation processes. We look for people with lots of ideas. We look with people who find it difficult to get ideas. And most importantly, we look for people who dare to learn new things, dare to get their comfort zones challenged, and to do things that they would not normally do. We select people based on passion. Passion is needed in innovation because it's hard work. So you can't follow your project through if you don't have passion for the field you're working with. We look for people who are able to express what potential the skills that they gain here in the program, how that can be applied in their career afterwards. So you should be able to express why will this program be a launchpad for you afterwards. Then we of course look for the basic personal abilities, the combination of educational background, work experience, side projects that you have engaged in, which can demonstrate a certain type of curiosity and abilities to learn new stuff. So thank you for listening, and now we will turn over to the question sessions.
Yeah. Hi, and thank you. Thank you, Sys. And welcome to Kasper and Lene. Please step up here. And Kasper, maybe you will start telling us about your background and why you applied for the biomedical design program.
Sure. My name is Kasper. I'm a medical doctor, and before going into this program, I'm in a specialty position to become a general practitioner, which I'm on leave from, and I will return to that position once this fellowship is over. My motivation for applying for this fellowship is both sort of professional and personal. So for the professional matter, it's I see a great challenge for the healthcare system in Denmark in the coming years with the demographic challenges that we are going to experience within the next 5 to 10 years. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the healthcare system, and I think we need to do some things differently in order to ensure great healthcare for everybody. And I'd like to be a part of that. And then as a general practitioner, I see many things that I believe we could do differently, and I just didn't have the tools to do anything about it. And for the personal matter, I have a wife who's an innovation consultant, and she always asks me all the right questions when I complain about something in the healthcare system, that why aren't we focusing more on the patients, or why are we focusing on a different user? And yeah, I think that just gave me an interest in innovation, and maybe I could use some of my medical abilities to make something great for the healthcare system in the future.
Hi, my name is Lene, and my background is in business. I studied what is called Cand.Merc.Int in Germany and in Denmark, so I have a dual degree. In my working experience is actually very divided. I started out in medical devices in single-use products like gloves and protective wear. So I traveled a lot around in Asia and sourced products, purchased them, and also I did marketing and product management for that company. Then I worked for a German company where we were agents for very big factories within the medical field. And then I moved on to working in the food industry. And then the last place before I went here was working with carpets for the cruise industry and for the hotel segment. And I really missed working in the medical field. So when I saw the biomedical design program, I thought it was a great way to get back into the field that I really enjoyed. And I think the reason for me also applying for the biomedical design program was that the last position I was selling, and I kind of thought that selling these types of products like carpets was not like really meaningful. I would much more prefer to sell something that would make an impact for people. And if that could be me being a part of a group or a company where we kind of invented the product ourselves, that would be the main goal for me. So that's my motivation.
All right, and we have some questions. The first question is for Sys. It's Raphael who asked if it's what kind of professionals or what kind of skills, what kind of professional backgrounds we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could it be anything, or is there any preferences?
Yeah. Yes, there are preferences. So you can say we look for having 1/4 for people that comes from healthcare professional backgrounds. We will look to take up 1/4 for people who comes with engineering or technical discipline backgrounds, and then we look for about 1/4 people who have commercial, economic, business background, and then 1/4 that have sort of a mixture of backgrounds. That can be designers, legal backgrounds, or other alternatives, and where we maybe also we also call it a bit a joker position, because there are many people who throw themselves out into some fantastic projects and gains a lot of experience for that can be just as valuable as any kind of academic background. So.
Yeah, and we have another question related to that. That is from Jason, and he asked if the 3 to 5 years of professional work if it is a necessity.
Yes, it's a necessity.
Okay, then we have another question related to that. What if your work experience exceeds the 3 to 5 years?
That's also fine. We say that in general we don't have an age limit, but if people are more than 45 years old, then we take a bit more scrutinizing look at them.
All right, and then I have a question for Kasper and Lene. It's from Danielle, who asked, what do you know now that you wish you had known at the beginning of this fellowship?
I think actually what Sys mentioned about the traveling, it has been a bit more than I had expected going into the fellowship. I'm a father of a small daughter, and we spent quite a lot of time going to hotels, to not fancy hotels, but hotels to have education, and to Copenhagen, and the possibilities of going overseas. Some fellows have been in Brazil and to Germany. So and we're not pressured to go, but the opportunities that are in this fellowship of leaving home and learning something new are so great that I think I would have liked to know how much we travel a bit more before I went into the program. I think I would have applied still, though.
I think the thing I would like to know before was actually concerning the salary that we get. In Denmark, there's a system. This is only applicable for the Danish people. That's if you get like social insurance, dagpenge, you're not able to get it after this program because this doesn't count as a real job. So that's kind of a money issue. But still, even though I would have known it, it would not have been a problem. I would still have applied for this program. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And I have a question for Sys. Yeah. Can you give an example of any of the outcomes of the program?
Well, I can't give an example from the Danish program, as we're running our first cohort now. But there are similar programs going on around the rest of the world. We have a great program called BioInnovate in Ireland. Oxford has quite an alternative program right now that is taking place in Africa, where they're working on third country issues. Then there is, of course, the mother program of all programs, the Stanford Biodesign program. And the experience from there is that there are a lot of startups that are established based on the projects that are developed during these programs. And also that's the most data from Stanford, that the people who finish the program, they have a tendency to be much more working or having their career tuned towards the medical technology industry and related positions to that. Whereas those who apply to the program and don't get in, they end up in all sorts of directions. So it does tune your career direction afterwards.
Thank you. And then I just have one more question about related to the work experience needed. If the working on your PhD counts as work experience?
We say that if people have a PhD, we count it a little as work experience, but you will have to have then either some years of postdoc experience or other professional work experience after your PhD.
All right. And now a question for Kasper and Lene. It is Helene who asked, what has been your greatest learnings from working in an interdisciplinary setting?
Well, I think that's easy to answer. Kasper and me, we are in two different groups. And in my group, we have We have an IT expert. I am the business person. Then we have Chantal, who is a biochemist, and Sebastian, who's a medical doctor. And it's really great to be in such an interdisciplinary team, because like if we take Martin, who's in IT, he has so many different point of views and the others have. So we just get up with a lot of good ideas, and we have like really, right now we're doing brainstorming, and it's just really good to try to work together with other people, because I was so used to work with business people. So we tend to get up with much more ideas and much more like open-mindedness when we talk about things. So that's been the biggest plus, I would say.
I think it's somewhat the same for me. As a medical doctor, my colleagues are doctors, and I discuss with doctors when there's something that I have my doubts upon. I think just the possibility of sparring and discussing things with people who know so much about things that I have no idea about how works or functions. In my group, we have a Dutch guy which knows a lot about medical imaging, and we have a physicist, a chemist, and we have a guy who knows a lot about building a business and running a business and implementation. And the discussions we have, especially now in the creative phase, I think are extremely exciting, and we come up with so many ideas where we sort of play upon each other. So the possibility of working with talented people from different professions than your own is really, really fun.
Thanks. And then I have a question for Sys. It's from Louise, who asked, are you being placed in either Aarhus or Copenhagen? Is it depending on where you live? Or how are you being put in Aarhus or Copenhagen?
Yeah. So when you apply, there's a possibility to select whether you have a preference for to be in Aarhus or in Copenhagen, and you can also indicate that it's of no importance for you. And then we of course look for where you are living.
All right, thank you. And where is the daily work taking place, in Aarhus or Copenhagen?
Both sides. So we take turns in having teaching going on in Aarhus and Copenhagen, and all third places, as Kasper also mentioned. Sometimes we take everyone out to a hotel where we stay for 2 days and have a lot of intensive training. And it's not all teaching where we move people around. So we try to also have some teaching going on just at one side for the Aarhus Fellows, and then separately for the Copenhagen Fellows. And sometimes we use an online connection to have the same session going on, but without moving people around.
Thanks. And this is for Kasper and Lene. What do you think has been the most challenging thing about being a fellow at the fellowship program?
For me personally, I think actually that the most challenging times are ahead. So the first part of the program is sort of a clinical boot camp where everybody who does not have a medical or a healthcare background is sort of brought up to speed real quick. And that was sort of my turf. So that was sort of easy, and behaving in the clinic was easy as it's my normal workplace. The creative skills phase, which we've just entered, I think is extremely fun and challenging. But especially when we get to some of the commercial parts of the program, I think I'm going to be extremely challenged. We have recently handed in a paper where we just touched briefly upon market analysis and shareholder analysis and existing solutions, a lot with marketing and commerciability, which I don't know anything about. So I think that's going to be very challenging for me.
Yeah, and that's just the opposite with me. Yeah. I think I already had like the very challenging part. It was the first month where we had the clinical boot camp. And for me, that was exhausting because I have absolutely no idea, more or less, about the human body. So that was like picking up from zero. And we had to present almost every day in the Aarhus group. We were put into different groups, so we had to get to know each other. And also we were mixed together like we were together at once, that you really had to take like the hard work, and I was just trying to really understand the basics when we had to present things. So that was really challenging. Yeah. So definitely that one for me.
All right. And then there's somebody asking, can you describe a usual day at the office, at the fellowship?
A usual day. Yeah. Well, I don't, that's the thing about the biomedical design program, that there's no like normal days, I would say. I think it depends on which stage you're in, like in the clinical boot camp, or what you could call it. There were like very strict days where we had to be there from 9 to 3, and we had to go through a lot of things. But then we went into the clinics, and we had to really decide how we wanted to do it in our group. So that was much up to the group how we wanted to be in the clinic. And right now we are in a phase where we do brainstorming, where it's always also up to us where we want to be. So I think a normal day, could you elaborate on that? What is a normal day?
Well, I think it's also it's different between the two teams that we are in. A lot of responsibility is put upon the team you're in to structure how do you want your day to be. But I agree that there are really no normal days, and it's from phase to phase, because for the first 6 weeks we were a lot in the facilities where we are, and that was some 8, 9 to 3, 4 ish. And then once we got into the clinic, it was from 7:30 to 3, 4, whatever. And now I think we're going to spend more time in our office facilities. But there's also a lot of days where you've been to Brazil, and you've been to Germany, and I've been to Aalborg and Randers and Horsens. So there are really no sort of typical days. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. There's a question about being a non-EU applicant. Is there any specific requirements on our side we need to take care of?
Oh, yes, that's a good question. There we have to collaborate. If we consider you for the program, we will have to collaborate to ensure that you can actually enter Denmark at all. Depending on which country you are from, then it's easier or more difficult. But a green working pass would probably be the way forward.
All right. Next question is, what or who determines the projects you work on?
Yeah, we do. We have throughout the clinical immersion, we have some sessions where we bring forth some ideas and we get some feedback, and we learn new tools sort of to evaluate the needs we have identified, and then it's based on at first sort of gut feeling and guesstimation, and then a bit more research, and then we end up with the 4 needs. The staff provides us with some tools on how to go from 150 needs to 4, which is a tough process and fun, but it's all on the fellows actually. But we can get the sparring we need from the staff, I think.
All right, and then we have a question from Nana. What kind of development work do you expect nurses to be part of to be able to apply? And is the 6 years work experience, does it has to be at the application point or when the program starts?
When the program starts is fine.
But do you have any certain special expectation to what kind of development work a nurse needs to be part of?
No, not there are no specific preferences for that.
All right. Then there's a question that goes like this. Do I need a permission of leave if I don't go back to my job after the program?
No, if you quit your job and there's a free bird, then that's just fine. I think actually most of our current fellows, they actually quit their jobs and say, now I'm trying something new.
Okay. Then Daniela asks, will we be taught in the qualitative methodology? And if yes, by whom?
You will be taught, or at least some of the ethnographic tools to do observations and interviews. We will do it differently next year than we did this year. So who specifically we will teach it, I can't say yet. But we do have qualitative competences in the team, but we engage a lot with external teachers also.
Okay. Then there's a question like this. Are the international visits going to a different place every time? Or did you visit the same few partners several times? I am worried that you might not get a lot out of a few short visits.
Well, I think I can answer that one, a part of it, and then you can take the rest.
Yes.
So this year I went to Germany to the big medical fair, actually the world's biggest medical fair called Medica. And we got a lot out of it in the group that where we went. From my group, it was just me, and then it was from your group, it was another person. So we were able to see a lot of existing solutions, and that was great. So for sure you got something out of that. Then a few weeks later, I went to Brazil to 2 different hospitals there. And for sure, we got a lot out of it because there's different ways to do procedures. We learned that for some of them, and we also learned about new ways and new products where we could kind of get our mindset going. So for sure, I think there's a lot in going abroad.
Yeah, and I can add that we provide some of the contacts that can all open the doors to different places for fellows. I completely agree with the point that going just a few places is not enough to validate needs and ideas. But we also encourage fellows to open up new doors themselves. And we have actually seen that quite many of them succeed with that.
Thank you. Then there's a question like this. Who will own the rights to the solutions the team comes up with?
The fellows will, and then if they have engaged other people in their ideas, and that these people have contributed to the ideas, then they of course also have to have some kind of ownership to, or at least they have the adventureship, and then they have to negotiate the ownership. But the university program as such are not taking claim on the IP.
Okay. Is it essential to have had full-time work time experience beforehand? And will your application get rejected as the first if you don't have?
Whether it's full-time or not, if it's not full-time, then it's more than 3 years, of course. Of work experience, but but no, try. It's that we're not that sort of selective.
Okay. Is this program only for people who already have a job in the biomedical sector?
Certainly, no.
Okay. Yes, there's a question like, is this the only chance to apply for the fellowship?
No, there will be a chance to apply again next year and next year again. And then we are currently on a grant from the Novo Nordisk Foundation, and so the last cohort will be taken up in 2022. That is our 4th year. But we of course expect that the program will continue beyond that period also.
Then there's the last question. Will you have to quit your job, if that is the case, before the 1st of February deadline, or just before the course start if you are selected for the program?
Just before the course start.
Okay. I think this was it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening to this webinar. It will be put out on our website, on LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it on demand with subtitles afterwards. And thank you to Lene and Kasper, and thank you to Sys. And we hope to see your application the 1st of February. Thank you.